everyone! Today I'm sharing an interactive spread in my Me, Myself, and I 6x8 album, and I'm using the Write Story Kit from Ali Edwards to document something completely off topic from what the kit was originally meant for documenting. I saw this phone screen die cut that came in the kit, and I thought it would be perfect to document some of my favorite phone apps right now. So I took the digital version of this kit and I resized the phone screen so that it's approximately 2.5 inches wide by 4 inches tall. And I also edited a version of that phone screen to make the screen blank so that I could type some journaling into the screens about some of my favorite apps. And I ended up printing out 4 of those here for 4 of my favorite apps. I've also printed out the 6x8 gray pattern paper with the writing on it, as well as a speech bubble and heart die cut from that same story kit. For my interactive element, I'm going to make a pull tab that flips through these phone screens as you pull on it. So I've cut a piece of white cardstock that measures 8.5 inches wide by 3.25 inches tall, and I've scored that on the long edge at 2.5 inches, 2 7/8 inches, 3.25 inches, 3 5/8 inches, and 4 inches. And I also have another piece of white cardstock measuring 5.25 inches wide by 1 inch tall. And I've scored on the long edge of that piece at 1/2 inch away from each end, so it makes kind of like a band when I fold these hinges over. Next, I'm going to fold on all of my score lines and use some 3/8 inch score tape to attach the band onto the very beginning part of that larger piece of white cardstock. So this is the end that we started scoring at 2.5 inches. And because the band is taller than my large strip of cardstock, I want to make sure that the band is centered over the strip of cardstock underneath. Next, I'm attaching some more score tape to those hinges, and these are what we're going to use to attach this assembly onto my base page. Now, if this assembly is starting to look a bit familiar, that's because I did a very similar pull tab mechanism in my December Daily 2021 album with a pull tab waterfall. Only that one has the photo maps flipping up when you pull the tab down, and this one is going to have the phone screens flipping to the left when you pull the tab to the right. Before I attach my phone screens down onto my interactive mechanism, I'm going to do some stamping on the backs of each of these pieces. So in this flip mechanism, I can stamp something on the back of the first screen, and it's going to end up being placed right next to this second screen once that first screen flips over. So I'm going through the phones and stamping the name of the second screen app onto the back of the first screen, then the name of the third screen app onto the back of the second screen, and so on. The stamp set that I'm using today is the 4x6 alphabet stamp set from Ali Edwards, and the colors I'm using come from the selection of inks that I had picked out in my last video featuring the ink pairings that coordinate with the May Stories by the Month kit and the Write Story kit. And you'll notice that I'm just stamping along the left edge of the back of these screens. You want to make sure not to stamp on the very right edge of the back because that's where we're going to be attaching the screens onto our interactive mechanism. Once I'm done stamping, I'm going to do some decorating before I start adhering everything down. I have this 3x4 journaling card from the Tech Story Kit that says Apps I Love Right Now, and I thought that would go perfectly into this speech bubble as my title for this page. And I did decide to trim off about 1/4 inch from either end of this piece and round the corners with my We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper so that these rounded corners match the rounded corners on my phones. I also have this red 4x6 journaling card from that Tech Story Kit that says, Tech, bring on the stories. And I'm going to trim this down so that it's small enough to cover up that long pull tab portion of my interactive mechanism. But I did make sure to trim it so that the whole word would still be visible in the part of that pull tab that is exposed when you finish pulling on it. Just using my Tombow Mono permanent adhesive tape runner to adhere that into place. And now that I have most of my interactive elements assembled, I'm going to adhere the two hinges down onto my base page. And because the pull tab is coming out on the right side of the layout where my binder rings are going to be, I made sure to adhere my interactive element closer to the left side of the page so that I have less risk of the pull tab interacting with the binder rings. Once that's done, I'm going to adhere all of my phone screens down, starting with the last one first, and that one I'm just going to adhere directly on top of the band and that 2.5-inch section there. Next, I'm lining each of these 3/8-inch sections with score tape, making sure not to go over any of those score marks. And if you happen to have a 1/4-inch score tape on hand, you can use that for sure. But since I don't, I'm using 2 strips of 1/8-inch score tape for each section. Then I'm just peeling off the tape backing one section at a time and attaching my phone screens, making sure that the screens are nice and lined up with the ones that I have already attached onto the interactive mechanism. So you can definitely see that there are some similarities and some differences between this pull tab mechanism and the one that I made for my December Daily Waterfall pull tab. So if you're a big fan of interactive elements, I'd encourage you to watch that December Daily one to see if you can spot what types of differences I made between this pull tab and that one. One of the things that I did differently for this one is that you'll notice that in this pull tab flipping mechanism, I've made the strip of cardstock that you pull on shorter than the band that wraps around the mechanism. And this is because my phone screens have rounded corners and I didn't want the hinges of the pull tab mechanism to peek out from behind my phone screens. So that's why that strip of cardstock is actually shorter than the actual height of the phone screen pieces. On the other hand, the band that goes around it still has to be the same height or taller compared to the phone screens, because when you're pulling on the pull tab, you're pulling the screens through behind the band, and that's why the band has to be a bit taller. Once I have all my phone screens attached, I'm just adhering my title piece down, as well as this little heart die cut piece. And I did use some 3D foam squares to pop that heart up as well. I just liked the way that helped it to stand out a bit more on my page. And that completes my layout for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more process videos. Thanks so much for watching.